What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Finance Friday. I am very, very glad to have you back here as usual. Today, I want us to talk about January, okay? January is one of the months that is the most dreaded by so many people because it comes with a cash crunch. It comes with outright being broke. It even comes with people getting into debt. Like you had all these New Year goals and New Year resolutions, and then just January 15th comes and it does the thing, and you've already started the year in debt. But you know what, guys? It doesn't always have to be like this. There is a way around it, and today I want to share some of the tips and some of the hacks that you can use to avoid being broke and in debt in January. Let's get into it. So the first thing that you want to do is to actually prepare January, like important January bills before you get into splurging for the holidays. So when you're thinking about January and you know the things that are really important and urgent, so I'm talking rent, obviously the utilities in the house. If you have children, there's also school fees, there's books, there's uniform. One of the ways you can avoid being broke and in debt in January is actually to prepay these bills and to buy whatever needs to be bought before you decide to, up your family and go to Diani. Because the truth of the matter is that enjoyment is enjoyment. You will actually end up spending more than what you had planned. And let me tell you guys, it happens to the best of us. Even when I'm going out, like let's say I've gone on holiday, and there's so many factors. One, you relax, there's family and all that. Just, every so often you might find yourself having gone above budget. And believe me, the enjoyment and the holiday slaps different. When you know your rent has been paid, you've already put aside school fees. In fact, one lady on my Instagram saw me talking about this like on Instagram, and she told me, you know what, coach, my kids' books are already bought, and the uniform also has already been bought. So like she's very relaxed. Even if she just goes to visit her family or do whatever it is that they're going to do as a family, she's aware, or like she already knows at the back of her mind that these things have already been paid for. You're going to be able to enjoy your holidays better, and you're also going to experience a lot more guilt-free spending when you know that your most important January bills have actually already been paid. And if you're over here looking at me like, coach, where's the money to pay January bills coming from? Please do not forget that your December salary is for that purpose only. Like the next time you're getting a salary, if you're employed, is end of January. So you actually need to utilize whatever it is that you're going to be paid this month, at the end of this month, to be able to prepay some of those bills. So that is the first tip that I would give you. The second thing that I would advise you to do to avoid being broke and in debt in January is to stop impressing. Okay? The truth of the matter is that people do not think about you as much as you think they think about you. So you're going home on holidays, and I know one of the things that I've learned as I've become older that has really surprised me is I used to think when, of course, we were teenagers, our moms, our teachers, our parents would always be like, peer pressure, avoid peer pressure at all times. And peer pressure is what would make us, get into a life of drugs or have boyfriends and girlfriends. Like I used to think it's a young people thing. And then now that I'm much older, I'm realizing, guys, peer pressure just moves from who has a boyfriend to who doesn't have a boyfriend, to whose parents bought them a phone to who didn't buy them a phone. And now as adults, we are still competing. Like you're competing with your sister who came home with the best shopping, who bought mama TV. You're competing with your brothers who's bought the best car. Like it's just never ends. And as long as you're focusing, like if you keep impressing and you're like, you start doing things that you cannot afford to impress these people. And that's one of the things that I have to keep reminding people, because I know, listen, when you're just at your workplace or at your normal turf, you've probably already come up with mechanisms of how to like cope with the pressure. But sometimes I find that the fact that in December and during the holidays, we are interacting with our families, we're interacting with our in-laws, we're interacting with our cousins, the pressure becomes worse, okay? The pressure becomes worse. And we are kind of like at the back of our minds, we find ourselves unintentionally or just uncontrollably wanting to impress people and wanting to show them, yeah, I know last year we didn't come with a car, now this year we've come with a car. And last year I know I did not, contribute the 10,000 that the family had agreed, but this year I'm contributing. Listen, do not live your life to impress people. They don't care as much as you think they do. And because, again, attention span. Today, they're going to be talking about how, you didn't come home or you didn't contribute. And like the next day, it's another family member. The other day, they see someone trending on social media. Again, don't make life-changing decisions that will actually put your finances in a mess to impress your family members or to impress whoever you're going to be around on the holidays, or even wanting to kind of like post on social media to show your friends that you guys are actually doing the thing on the holidays. What I'm just going to advise is that please own where you are. Christmas is one day, okay? One day. Do not upend your entire financial stability for the month of January, probably even February and March for that one day. So ensure that you own where you are and live within your means. You're going to thank me in January. The other thing you need to learn in order for you to avoid being broke or even possibly in debt in the new year is to learn how to say no, especially to yourself. It is a sign of maturity. So we've probably, on this channel, we've been talking about boundaries and learning how to say no. And you've probably been able to learn how to say no to friends, how to say no to family members. But I also find that the other bigger no that you need to learn is how to tell yourself no and how to actually be very honest with yourself and look at your finances. Let me tell you guys, even just this year only, forget about like Christmas holidays. If I showed you my sinking fund list for this year, you would call me Delulu because I had so many plans for myself. Like I had all these places I wanted to travel to. I had all this tech that I wanted to buy for the business. I had big dreams and big visions for myself. And most of them, of course, involved money. Now, I'm not saying I did not achieve most of them. But what I do know is that there are quite a number of them. And I don't just mean one or two, quite a number of things that I had to just sit down, look at my finances and be like, okay, Suzanne, this can happen in 2023, and I've had to learn how to say no to myself. I've had to kind of like be like, okay, this is not an option. One of the things I'm doing this Christmas is actually staying home. My family and I are actually going to be here. We're gonna host a dinner like on the 24th, and then we'll probably just chill in the house, go to church and come back. And that's my Christmas plan. We'll send our moms, whatever we need to send them. We'll probably see them before Christmas or even after Christmas. But we've just decided to stay home. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. What I'm just trying to say is that you don't always have to say yes to yourself. Now, if you're a Christian like me, or if you're a believer, you do know this scripture. And I was actually making a joke with a very close friend of mine about this. And the way we keep saying, follow your heart, do what makes you happy. And so we were laughing with her and we were saying, even scripture itself says that the human heart is depraved. Like it is utterly like you cannot depend and you cannot trust your own heart as a human being. That's again, if you are a Christian and you subscribe to reading the Bible, like it actually says that the human heart is utterly evil. And that's why God is here to help us. But really, so, once you actually understand that sometimes you're gonna, someone told me, sometimes you just find yourself craving clothes, craving debt, doing what? And I'm just like, please do not listen to your heart. Learn how to say no to yourself. It actually is a sign of maturity. The other thing you need to learn how to say no to, or rather just learn how to say, is that you need to say, I cannot afford it. You need to understand that there is absolutely no shame in saying, I cannot afford this. Do not go broke trying to look rich in the holidays or even at any time of the year. If you're able to say no to yourself, if you're able to say no to people, if you can confidently communicate that you're not able to afford something, I believe that that practice throughout the month of December and throughout the holidays can actually help some of us to have retained some of the money, and we won't be broke in January. The fourth thing that you can do is to sacrifice some things for others. Now, I know it's the holidays and there's like so many things. This whole thing has been commercialized. There's sales, there's Christmas trees, there's decorations, there is pajamas and photo shoots for the families and all these things. And, you know, there's shopping for our parents, there's traveling, and you know, there's so many things that you need to do on a very small paycheck. Or on, you know, some of us probably in the year of 2023, you ignored Coach Susan and you didn't have a Christmas sinking fund, and we found ourselves here. Now, we're not going to cry over spilled milk, but what we can do is that if you can learn to sacrifice one thing over the other, maybe you can retain some money and avoid being broke in January. So let me give you some practical examples. For instance, you can decide to forfeit decorations. Maybe decide that you're not going to buy a Christmas tree, decorations, and those things cost quite a buck. Like if you get a good Christmas tree, decorate with your children, etc., you're probably spending a minimum of 9,000 to 12,000. If you're fancy, probably even more. So you can decide to sacrifice that. Instead, you're going to have a very good meal. So you'll get your bacons and your sausages and your turkey or whatever makes you happy. So just look at what's more important. Is it important for me to have a Christmas tree? If it is not, then you can decide to sacrifice the Christmas tree so that you can actually cook your family a really good meal. Like you, instead of spending 10,000 on decorations and Christmas tree and then another 10,000 for shopping or 15,000, you can decide to forfeit that 10,000 for Christmas trees and decorations, and then you spend that 10,000 like on having like an unforgettable holiday meal that everyone will probably remember. Another sacrifice that you can make is, especially my followers from Western, hey, we know you spend quite some money going all the way to to home, and there's the transport, there's shopping. Someone was joking and telling me you guys literally carry everything from your house and then you're gonna come back with it. Maybe you can decide that this year again you can sacrifice traveling home if you know that will actually put your finances in a very messy situation in January. Instead, you can decide to drop your family a call, your mom, your dad, your family, and actually maybe even send them 5,000 or however much you can get, and be like, you know what, I'm gonna have to stay in Nairobi this year, but I'll probably join you guys next year. So instead of spending the 20,000 that you would have spent, and then of course meeting people in the rural area and giving them each 1,000 bob or 1,500 because they think watu wa Nairobi wako na pesa, then you will have actually avoided all that. So what am I just trying to say is that you cannot have it all. Santa doesn't exist when you're grown up, okay? So ensure that you actually understand the place of sacrifice. And that's just life. If money was an unlimited resource, then we wouldn't have to. But because it's very limited, and because January is coming in a few days, then you might actually want to just be very honest with yourself about what you can and cannot do. And even though it feels bad, just sacrifice some things for the others. I always tell people, please write your top 5 priorities. Like for me, I love doing a good meal. I'm not big on Christmas clothes. I don't have children. Maybe when I do have children, they'll be like, we must buy new Christmas clothes. And there are people who value other things. Like there are people who will probably be like, we must go to Shags and whatnot. Please write down your top priorities. Also examine why those have become your top priorities. Is it because you genuinely want to do those things, or is it because you're under pressure, either from your family or your friends, to do those things? So identify what your priorities are and then prioritize what is important and sacrifice the rest. There's going to be Christmas for the rest of your life until God takes you every 25th of December. So whatever you didn't do this year, you can always plan and save better next year so that you can have it in 2024. But for 2023, sacrifice, okay? The fifth thing that you must absolutely do to avoid being broke and in debt is to actually have a spending plan for these holidays and to have a way to track your expenses. If you thought that this video was going to end without me talking about budgeting, you don't know me very well. You don't know Coach Susan. I'm a budgeting babe. Now, I'm not saying be rigid, okay? I'm not saying walk around with a calculator everywhere, but I mean, if you can, why not? But what I'm just trying to say is, maybe you've decided that, and especially if your salaries, I remember where I used to work, in December, we'd actually be paid around 18th. Do you know how dangerous that is? That's the riskiest thing you can ever do. Why you paying me on 18th? And the next time you'll pay me is 30th January, towards the end of January. So you say I have 1.5 months to kind of budget this money for it to fit. So what would a budget look like? It would look like maybe you decide that you're gonna lock away money. Remember, we started with point number 1. Let's say you've even prepaid all these things and you have an X amount of money. You've decided that for the Christmas holidays, I want to limit my spending to 30,000, or I want to limit my spending to 20,000, or I want to limit my spending to 10,000. You name it, wherever your level is, you must have a rough idea of what you would want to limit your spending to. Okay, so that's a spending plan. And then actually have and I've told you guys before, I use an app that is available on both Android and iOS called the Money Manager app. You can just look it up. And it's actually very effective because you're able to create categories. So you can actually create a category for Christmas spending, and anything towards Christmas or holiday spending, you actually track there. And just check on it. Again, we're saying don't be obsessive, but check on it every 2 to 3 days just to ensure that you're actually remaining within your budget. So the bottom line here is, again, to just keep tabs on yourself. Even the best of us, like the most organized person, the most disciplined person, will always, without tracking, without checking in on yourself, you always find that you've gone off the rails and you've misbehaved. I mean, even me, okay? So you've already done it before, it has failed. So for this month of Dec, especially because in the next 2 weeks, there's gonna be a lot of festivities. What I'm just trying to say is that have in mind a number, that our family spending or my personal spending will not exceed X amount of money, and then create a system, either use an app, a notebook, calculators, whatever works for you, to constantly check in and to ensure that you've remained within that budget. Now, if you guys are able to do any of these 5 things, I believe, especially effectively, I believe that 2024 January should find us with money to sustain us for the long January, okay? So I really hope that this video was helpful and impactful. If you are like me and you like coming up with tips and hacks on how to kind of get your money to work for you and all that, please let me know in the comment section down below. Please ensure that you comment and let me know, how are you actually planning to stay within budget? What are you definitely saying no to this month? What do you know for a fact you're not going to spend on? And what are some of the tips and hacks that you can actually recommend to other people who are going to be in the comment section that you've heard of or you want to practice in this holiday season to ensure that January finds you intact and still liquid? Again, thank you so much for watching this video. Please remember to like and to subscribe and share it with your friends. I'm going to see you on the next episode of Finance Friday.